Hi friends and welcome to my nest. So I was recently at Fat Quarter Shop website and I've always wanted to do the Perfect 10 quilt book, and so you use a layer cake because I have lots of layer cake laying around and I didn't have the book. And not that I can't do anything with my layer cake, but having the Perfect 10 layer cake quilt book was very helpful. So I thought I'd grab one. So I bought it and it happened to be on sale for the month of January. And I was looking in it and I thought, well, there are some fun quilts in here. Some of them look a little bit time consuming. I agree. For example, let me show you which one I think was a little bit, I won't say hard, but time consuming. I just wanted to do something quick, easy, something happy and bright. So I thought this quilt right here will be a little bit time consuming because the entire quilt is HST. I don't mind making HSTs, but they take time because you have to get them perfectly right. And then you can also use the triangle on a roll paper, which would be an ideal, but I don't want to do all that. So I thought, why not just do something easy? Why not do like, let me show you which one I have in mind. I have the banana quilt in mind, and I want to do the birthday quilt. The reason why is because I'm very type A in my brain, and I like the way the colors are very kind of like symmetrical, not symmetrical, kind of like, they follow each other. They're very organized in their setting. And if for me, that is like a tulip pink fan, you can kind of do a rainbow going this way. So that's why I want to do the birthday quilt. And I have a layer cake that I don't want to say hoarding, I want to say collecting. I have a layer cake that I've been collecting for quite a long time. This is Melissa Mortensen. This is it's called the Derby Day collection. You can still get this on Etsy. They have it on Etsy. So I thought about using this because the line has birthday cake, it has purses, it has like really pretty green. Actually, green is not my favorite color, but this green is so pretty. So if you have this book, I would love for you to join me in sewing this Perfect 10 birthday quilt from the Perfect 10. So I'm going to starch and I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to show you my process before I actually cut. So let's do that. So here are my fabric all prepped and ready to go in order of their color variation. So this is my ruler right here. I'm going to be using the Perfect 10 ruler right here, and then this is my book right here. I would love for you to join me in sewing along with in this book. You can sew the birthday quilt or you can sew whatever quilt out of this using the pattern in the book. They have 16 all together right here. So there are 16 quilts that you can choose from. You don't really have to have this ruler right here, but it'll be really nice to have. With that being said, the next thing I'm going to do is start cutting this beautiful 10 square. And again, I did starch my 10 square only because the squares that we need to cut out are not the entire 10 squares, so it gives room for starching. So if you want to sew this, you can totally starch your 10 squares if you are a starcher quilter. So these I'm not going to be using. I thought this was kind of like geometric-y and it doesn't really go with the theme that I want to do. So these are the double in color. And so these also comes in pink. I'm not going to use these right here. And this right here looks a little bit more background-ish. It's a very beautiful fabric. I love it, but it's also it's gonna get lost in the background that I'm going to be using. So they have two of these. It's very pretty. This is also good for backing. This is very pretty, but it's not going to go with the theme for part of the body of the quilt, and also this right here. So that being said, these right here are going to go in, I'm going to chop it up into like 2.5 inches. So now let's get cutting and let's get ready to sew this quilt. So I have shown you what the fabric looks like and the fabric collection that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be sewing the birthday quilt, and this is what our quilt is going to look like at the end. So with that being said, let me close it up, and I'm going to sew my block and show you what I'm going to be doing. So this is the border fabric. Here are the leftover cutting. Like after you cut out your pieces, there's other leftover pieces right here. So I have trimmed this down to 2.5. I'm going to use this later on to make my scrapped quilt that I'm doing for 2024. So the first thing we're doing for this quilt is making our half square triangles. Okay, so I'm going to make my half square triangles by putting right sides together. I'm going to sew down 1/4 inch from the center right here. So when I cut down, I'll have my 1/4 inch seam. Let's go ahead and sew our first section for this block. So I have sewn both of them together, and I've sewn right sides and right side right here. So what I'm going to do now is snip down the middle and finger pressed right here. Then I will press down this right here. So this is one set. I'm going to put it over there. So now we're going to use the same color, and we're going to do snowball right here and then snowball right here. So that's what we're doing now. I completed this one. I just sewed to the corner to make this half square and a square looking segment. So the first one we did was the 2 half square triangles. So to make this block, we need another set of solid fabric right here. So these right here are the HSC that we made earlier. And then this, I just sewed a square to the corner, a square to the corner, and we're going to need another matching piece right here to make a block. So what I'm going to do now is sew them together. I'm going to sew this together and then this one together to make this block. So once you've done this, the pattern tells you you're going to need 4 sets of this to make one segment of block, and I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. So the reason why I'm doing this using like a colorful fabric is because I want you guys to see you don't have to use a layer cake or 10 square. You can just cut out your own 10 squares and do this. So that's kind of what I'm trying to show you, that sometimes when you buy books and the quilts might not look like the colors that you like, you can take your imagination out of that box and make up your own colors. So that's kind of what I'm doing. This is what the first block is going to look like. So we're going to need 4 of this to make one segment, and this is our first one. So I'll show you what the rest of them are going to look like. So this is what our block is going to look like when it's all done. So what I'm going to do now is make 3 more, and then I'll show you what a segment will look like. I'm going to put this on the side. So this is our second, and even though this horse right here is turned upside down, the quilt is going to be square. So by the time I use it any which way, it wouldn't even matter. So I'm not that particular about this being this horse not being right side up. It really doesn't bother me. So we have our second one here, and we need 2 more to make our segment. I'm going to make number 3 so you can kind of see how this is going to be put together. Okay, so this is the last 3. I'm just going to sew them together to make our third block for our fourth segment. So I'm going to bring you closer here. Each one of this are a block, okay? So this is one block. We're going to need 4 here to make our segment. When we make the segment, which is going to consist of 4 blocks, and we're going to need this cornerstone right here. So you're going to use a different color stone to each one of the corners, and all we're doing now is sewing all this together to make our segment. And I'll put it on the wall to show you what it looks like, okay? So now I have the first part sewn, the middle sashing, and then the last part. So all I'm doing now is joining them like this, making sure that this are pressed going this way and this is pressed going the other direction. I'm just gonna hold on to it. I'm not going to pin. You can pin if you want. I don't feel the need to have to pin. I'm just gonna hold on to it. And I'm sewing this next one on. Okay, so this is what our segment looks like. After you put everything together, you're going to have this secondary block right here. So that is what a segment is going to look like, and we have our sashing over here. So now what I'm going to do is take it to the wall, and I'll show you what it looks like with the rest of the block all put together. Okay, these are the block that we just completed. So this is 4 blocks that's made into this segment right here. And I did put a cornerstone. So what I'm going to do is fit it down here like that. Okay. I tried to make my quilt from the top right here. So the colors are going this way and they're going this way and like that. Just like the pattern kind of suggested. I didn't like my colors to be all over the place. I kind of like the organizational setup of how it looks in the book. So I kind of took that imagination and kind of made it my own. So that was why I made the blues going this way. So what I did was when I set mine up, I stood back and kind of looked at it, rearrange it so that way the colors will look like this. I hope that will help with you kind of coming up with your own setup. I wanted to sew the blocks so you kind of see the assembly of it. So this is how it looks like when it's all done. So for example, the hardest part of doing this is making sure that your cornerstone and your sashing matches. For example, I have not sewn this part. So what I did was put the sashing here. So when I'm sewing, I would just put it like that. So I'm going to pin this part to match and then pin this right here to match all this. So all my points would match. This is my quilt. These are my border. I made my borders a little bit bigger than what is called for. I think the pattern wanted it to be skinnier than what I have it here, but I wanted a wider border because I wanted it to be a certain size. So I made mine a little bigger. So I cut my border to be 5.5. So when it's all sewn down on each side, it'll be 5 inches finished. So that's what I have left to do on this quilt. I plan on using this as my backing. So I've had this in my stash for a while and it was part of the collection. I have used it for a lot of other backing for my quilt, but this is what I have left. So it just presented itself as a backing. So I'm not sure if you can see all that. And these are like metallic, and it's also designed by Melissa Mortensen. So I thought it was a perfect fit for this quilt. So that is what I will be doing here today. So that's what I'll be doing. I'm going to put together the border. I'm going to sew this part on and I'll come back and show you what everything looks like after this is sewn on. All right. So here's my quilt all completed and I am happy with how everything turned out because if you look at the pattern or the way the quilt is to be constructed, this is like a digital image print in the book, right? So you kind of have to use your imagination, and I didn't have a problem doing that. There was some fabric within the layer cake itself that I did not use only because it didn't really go with the theme. or they were light. So what I did was incorporated this fabric right here, which is from Melissa Mortensen other fabric line, is called Fox Farm. So I was able to use it to incorporate into it. And then this right here, I had extra fabric of it. So I went on ahead and used it. And it's still, let me step aside right here. It still worked together. If you can see, it just kind of blend in. The background fabric is by Christopher Thompson, the tattoo quilter. He designed for Riley Blake also. And this one is the kind of like a white with silver little dots in it. And I thought it complemented the fabric because the fabric's kind of shiny and is very girly. So it's not completely white. It has some speckles around it, which is silver speckles. I'm so happy with how it turned out. I showed you how I kind of made the blocks, right? And then I put this and I made them in segments. So I just lined them up. Yes, I did pin. If you look at it from afar, from the screen, it looks like everything matches perfectly. But in reality, it doesn't. It's not perfect, and that's okay. So when you're making your quilts at home and you see all these corners and you say, oh, and you're a beginner and then you're like, well, I can't match it. All you have to do is just pin. But the only rule that I follow is maintaining my 1/4 inch seam at all times. Now, if my seams do not match up, right, I don't feel so bad because if you maintain a 1/4 inch seam the entire time, you will be consistent with your seam at all time. Even if things doesn't match up because your feed dog probably feeds differently, at the end of the day, if you're consistent with that 1/4 inch seam, you will have a match right here. Even though some of the point, kind of like this one right here, it's not as sharp as the rest, that's okay. But nothing is out of whack. That is just so glaring. You cannot sew 100%, 100% of the time, okay? If you have all your points lined up and you pin once you are doing your cornerstone, it will be okay. So I just want to make this quilt using this Perfect 10 right here, because a lot of times some of us see quilting books that are on sale, we buy it and then we just let it sit and looking for that perfect fabric or that perfect line to come out. You don't have to do that. Like for example, if I make this quilt and I can go in here and say, you know what, there are 16 quilts in here to be made. My advice and my tip is whenever you buy a book, at least make one quilt from that book. So that way you can get your money's worth, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing here. There are 2 other quilts in here that I'm interested in making. The banana cake and a French vanilla cake that I want to make. I am going to get this quilted before my birthday, which is in March, this month that we're in. So I'm going to make this for myself and I'm going to get a chair in my sewing room on the corner. It's going to live there. I'm going to make a pillow to go with it, with with this line of fabric, what I have left. And it will be my own personal sitting area. So I get to make a quilt for myself. So, because a lot of the quilts that I make, I give it away and some I do keep. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please support me by subscribing down below. And I thank all of you guys who have subscribed to my channel. I am on a quest to getting to 2,000 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but to me it is. So please subscribe down below, share this video so I can continue bringing you fun quilt project ideas to encourage and inspire you in your sewing room. So with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.